episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Spinauer and Theo Ash. And we're back with another draft episode. I assume Matt dropped his pen to take his diligent notes.
No, I was fiddling with my key fob like a little kid, and I dropped that. So
that's even worse, honestly.
It's way worse, honestly. And
We're going to get you a fidget spinner.
And here's the thing, bro. And it's sickening to say this too. Is that, well, first off, yeah. But my grandma one time got me his little stocking stuffer, like one of those like little fidget cubes, man.
Oh yeah.
I won't lie to you, dude. Like they are fun to fool with. I mean, I'm not gonna like take it in public and like be at like dinner and be like messing with it, but like I'm also not gonna lie and be like, I don't want to like. It's got like a little switch you can flip on it or whatever. It's like, all right, yeah, I'm game.
Bro's taking the fidget cube to Nobu and
so
we need a fidget cube sides tier list.
I need to find it, dude, but that's not a
the Switch
idea.
S tier. The knob C tier.
The dial.
We're actually changing the episode. We're doing fidget cube side draft instead of.
And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you're just gonna have to hear us describe what it looks like in an audiobook.
Right, exactly. And if you're watching on YouTube, then you know that each of us actually have a fidget cube in our hands right now. No, we don't. No, the actual episode today is we're doing a units draft. So we recently did a draft where we created our ideal secondary. Today, we're going to do something a little bit more broad. So we're each going to draft a quarterback, a skill position, group, an offensive line, a front seven, and a secondary to make
our ideal team.
Perfect team. Whoever drafts
but we don't have time
wins.
To go through all 22 positions and draft individuals, nor do we really want to. That seems like a lot. So we're sticking to these big, general, broad stroke units.
Yeah, we're doing a starting five, really.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, starting five in the NFL.
Yeah, but you can't do players, so we got to do units. Minus special teams, I'm realizing. We're leaving them out in the cold. Maybe if we have time at the end.
I'm not going to get into it, but I think that's interesting. No?
Well, if we were doing special teams, it would be kind of unfair because someone would get Justin Tucker and nobody else could.
And they'd almost immediately lose. You're right.
True.
But before we get into that, how are you guys doing? Theo, I see you're in a dungeon.
I am. They locked me up.
About time.
They locked me up for eating too much good seafood this weekend. They said he must be stopped. He's had too much pan-seared fish. He's had too much lobster. He's a menace to the Northeast. Get him out of here.
East Coast seafood is pretty elite.
It's all I've eaten every dinner for like the last week is some sort of.
I don't blame you.
Seafood item. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were in Louisiana, I had some pretty much every day, and I was like, damn. I don't do this in Ohio, unfortunately. Cincinnati, not quite as known for its seafood.
The Cincinnati gumbo. Got lizards in there. Chili.
Yeah, they got the chili.
I'll stand by, though.
Chili's good.
Even if people are mean and awful about Cincinnati chili because they've
most normal food dish in Ohio.
So yeah, dude, it's just like cheese and meat and noodles, and somehow that's nasty. It's like I mean, sound 11.
It's the most like okay food of all time.
It's
being
good.
Like totally real.
It's yummy, man. I don't care.
All right, man. All right. Well, shall we get into this draft? Theo talks about Skyline Chili one time and wants to never talk about it again. Theo, you have the first pick here. And I assume you can kind of pick whichever position you want first.
Yeah, I mean, I can go any direction here. Any unit in the NFL, and I get to build my team around it. Now, there's only 3 of us, so quarterback, I guess all positions have the equal amount here. There's 32 defensive lines, there's 32 quarterbacks, there's 32 skill position rooms.
Did we say what the order was or how we picked it?
I just randomly generated it. I'm going first. And then Matt is going second. And then Blaiden is going third.
Interesting how Theo randomly...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so Theo did some work on his computer. We don't know what. We don't.
You guys sound like my fantasy... You guys sound like my fantasy football league when I get like a top half of the first round pick.
Dude, one time, the first time I did the 32-team league, I got the first overall pick on one randomization. And people were like, that's totally bogus. And honestly, like, I don't blame them for accusing me of that at all.
I deserve to be accused. But I'm still going through with it.
Yeah. No, yeah,
look,
it's whatever. We should all end up with pretty good teams here, I would imagine.
Yeah. Until Blaiden takes like...
What?
I don't know, man.
Take, Theo,
you're going to take like...
Browns front 7.
Browns skill position room. And
no,
be like,
here's the thing is
I
I would take the Browns front 7 if we didn't have one glaring weakness. When it comes to your feet, eBay's got your back, because with eBay's authenticity guarantee, real experts are checking your sneakers, every stitch down to the sole. Me personally, I'm a big fan of a classic Air Force, or maybe a nice suede or leather boot, but whatever it is that you're adding to the lineup next, head to eBay. From the drop to your doorstep, eBay does not play with your sneaker game. Just look for that blue check mark. So ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms.
I want to make my first pick.
I already know.
I'm taking, before the Ayuk trade, if it goes down, while it's still intact, I'm taking the San Francisco 49ers skill position room. I think that's maybe not. I think it is the clear best. If we're talking everything equal, I'm taking quarterback kind of at the same value as I'm taking a front 7 because, like I said, we get the top 3. So it's going to be good all around. I think that the 49ers skill position group is better than the second place skill position group by a larger margin than any other unit in football. I mean, maybe the Vikings can match them in terms of receiving talent with Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson and all of that, but they don't have a McCaffrey, you know. Sorry, Aaron Jones. I've had to come around to the idea. But yeah, I just think that there's so many different things you can do with just McCaffrey alone. It really changes how you have to defend a team like this. I talked last time about the greatest fullback hypothetical and how that can force you into more one high looks. You know, that's what McCaffrey and Juszczyk do. You want a safety probably instead of a linebacker guarding both of those guys. And then you've got Ayuk and Debo and Kittle and those guys. There is no right answer against a group like this. There's a reason that Jimmy Garoppolo is 6th in success rate over the last 2 years, and Brock Purdy is 1st after being the last pick in the draft. You know, these quarterbacks are good in their own right, but the skill position group is really what I'll always remember about this 49ers team. It's one of the best ever assembled. So I got to go with them as the first overall pick in the draft. And if that means missing out on Mahomes and taking, I don't know, Joe Burrow later or something like that, so be it.
Herbert,
Lamar. We'll see how it lies.
It is going to be Herbert. I don't blame you for that pick whatsoever. I think that's incredibly fair. Me personally, because I have the second pick, and then Blaiden has the third, and then it's a snake.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have done the same thing, but they were the number 1 skill position group that I had listed.
Right.
I think if I'm looking at all of my different options and I'm saying, where is the gap the biggest between number 1 and number 2 right now? I'm going to have to go with the Lions offensive line
Okay.
at the moment. Multiple all pros on there with Sewell, Ragnow, just very solid across the board. They added, who do they add? Guard, Browns.
Zietler, right?
Yes, they added Zietler, who's getting up there.
He was
But
good
is
last year,
still
though.
super reliable. Yeah, and just we talk about why does the 49ers offense work? Well, because of their skill position group. Why does the Lions offense work? Because of their offensive line. The Eagles are probably also a very fair pick here, and there's other great offensive lines in the NFL, but even they lost arguably their best player.
Yeah.
Kelsey.
And I think with Detroit, just how strong their run game is and how much they've held up for Goff and how much you've seen him be able to succeed on that offense when under pressure he hasn't always been the most consistent. I think it speaks a lot to how good they've been, how strong across the board, and how good their top guys are. So I don't know how much more you could ask for. It's maybe not like the flashiest pick, but I could do some like Jim Harbaugh stuff and be like, actually, it's the most important position group type of talk, and I think my team could get some hype for that. So that's the route I'm going.
I don't necessarily disagree with Harbaugh. I mean, the way that he said it with offensive line doesn't. His rationale was like
I
everybody
didn't agree
else
with his
depends.
rationale, but like I could get down with it. It's like I guess, but like the quarterback depends on the most amount of people, I'd argue, and it is the most important position. I just don't think it like quite works like that.
I think offensive line is arguably the most or one of the most important after quarterback, I guess, just because it manipulates the time of everything and the space of everything so directly. And that matters a lot. Just if you have more room, if you have more time, you are going to be better. And whatever you do is going to work. You look at the Eagles offensive line from a few years ago. It was Kelsey, it was Lane Johnson, and the supporting cast around those two was Carson Wentz. It was Nick Foles, Alshon Jeffrey, Jay Ajayi. They went to the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl. Everything else changes. Head coach change, quarterback change, position group changes, but the offense rebuilds and is even better around that offensive line. And that fourth, like, what they were able to do on fourth down in both of those years with the tush push and with Doug Peterson just deciding to go for it on fourth down all the time in 2017. I think, two different coaches with two different philosophies both saw that kind of offensive line and said, we can do this. So if you have a really good offensive line, I think you can build the entire team around that just like you can a quarterback, really. So I agree. I think the Lions were kind of second on my board as well.
Wow. I'm shocked that neither of you took Mahomes.
Mahomes.
I am going to take Mahomes, but
fair play. He's good.
He's all right, man. He's all right. I don't know. I do think the gap is somewhat substantial between Mahomes and the next best guy. So he was number one on my board over both the Niners and the Lions.
That's interesting. Is the gap between Mahomes and the next guy? We'll say Josh Allen or Lamar, whoever, bigger than the gap between the first and second of any other group that we're talking about? I think it's definitely debatable. I don't blame you for that pick.
I was shocked to get him. I was like, prepare. I thought we were gonna all go quarterback first, kind of on the board here, but I can definitely see going Niners and then Lions over like Allen, Lamar. But for me, Mahomes just makes too much sense. For my first set of position groups, though, I am going to go with the Baltimore Ravens secondary.
I wanted them.
Yeah, man. Marlowe, Wiggins, Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams. Yeah, man, we're going to be able to throw the ball, and teams aren't going to be able to throw the ball against us. That is typically the path to victory in the NFL these days. So
Yeah, I kind of forgot about the Nate Wiggins pick until this
Oh
prep.
yeah.
I mean, not to. I love Nate Wiggins, obviously, but
Yeah.
in the hours and the days and the months after the draft, you just kind of
You're casual. You don't
forget
watch the
about
games.
certain
It's okay.
things, hey, And then I was revisiting all the top units, and then got to the Ravens secondary, and it's like, oh yeah, they added
Oh yeah.
the most lockdown man cover guy in
they
all of
might be
college football
goated.
at number 30. Just got sick about it all over again.
They might be goated, man.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty strong start for you. Looking at my options before I make a decision, this is really tough. Maybe the fact that I can't decide which one I think is better is telling.
You're not
But
going
I
to tell us
think-
your what
I
options
think
you're
I'm
choosing
well,
between.
no, because then you guys will steal. I think I'm gonna have to go with the 49ers front seven as my next.
That was my
pick.
next. That would have been my next pick.
Yeah. It's close, I guess, and everything's close here. Moving to number 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with the 49ers, you get, I think, the best linebacker play in the NFL, and you get a top tier, like a number 1 edge rusher. And I don't think anywhere else can provide that. There's some questions about just like their depth at edge rusher. How is Leonard Floyd going to slot in there? They've sort of had like a revolving door at that edge number 2. But I still have like a lot of faith with Hargrave there as well. Like their pass rush is going to be pretty elite. And again, we saw how much their linebackers meant. I guess maybe this is sort of like you could question, is Greenlaw going to be good coming back? But at the moment, we don't know. So I can just say, yeah, I think that they will be, or I think he will be. And I think their linebackers are going to be awesome and stick with that. And I think they also got Devondre Campbell, right? So I think 49ers probably beat out the Jets, were the other team I was considering. And they would have been a strong choice as well. So I'm going Niners.
Yeah, I have no real qualms about that. They didn't really have the success last year that you'd expect based on the talent that they had, but I think Wilkes did a poor job in the first half of the season, and they really suffered, I think, from a talent standpoint. Even though they lost Armstead and lost Chase Young, I guess, but he wasn't the impact player they had hoped. I think Warner is just such a cheat code. Like Warner and Bosa, the two of them, it's just two of the best players in the league, 2 defensive player of the year candidates on the same unit. I mean, there's it's like the 49ers offensive skill position, like 2 offensive player of the year. Yeah, not really. I guess they only got McCaffrey, but Kittle's pretty top tier. It's just hard for a tight end to win that.
Yeah,
You
Fred
also
Warner
have
is
Mikal,
Fred
but
Warner's
yeah.
the guy. Fred Warner's the
And
guy.
you're building your trenches.
Right. And I'm gonna be like really annoying about doing that too, hypothetically, if I'm coaching the team.
Yeah, I mean, you got the
I'm
Lions
not
offensive
gonna-
line, 49ers front
Yeah,
7,
and I'm
and
just
they
not
get to
gonna
go
shut up
against
about
each
it.
other. They get to go against each other in practice, iron sharpens iron type of deal. So they're only going to
Iron
get
sharp-
even better. This is something that
Yeah, man.
This is what they don't talk
The
about.
chemistry between these Madden cards or whatever is giving +1 play rec. But
yeah, we're going to put these teams into Madden and see who wins the Super Bowl.
Ooh, that could be fun.
But
I guess. Oh, never mind.
You've got-
Do you
Oh, I
have a
was just-
second pick? Oh, I was
Yeah,
wanting
no,
to
yeah,
jump
you
ahead.
have, yeah, you have back-to-back picks here, Theo.
Oh, that's right. I'm going first.
Yeah.
Dang. I feel like I never go first in these. But anyway,
I
why I
definitely never
forgot.
go first in these, but okay.
that's why you cheated and made yourself go first. It's all good.
That's true.
I'm gonna take Josh Allen first of all.
Okay.
Going to be about that time. Just MVP production year in, year out. Not concerned about the turnovers. He's as good of a playoff performer as there is outside of Mahomes in the league. Even though he throws picks, it's still true. I have all the rushing upside with him. That maybe not quite as much as Lamar, but even when Lamar wins MVP and Josh Allen gets his offensive coordinator fired, it's still like pretty arguable about who had more impact, like Josh Allen just scored so many touchdowns this past season. His defense wasn't quite as dominant as Lamar's was. Diggs fell off, and it still didn't matter. I still have Josh Allen as QB2, even though Lamar was a deserving MVP. And I'm going to go with them here. And I just feel good about just kind of the mix at all the other position groups right now. And then with my second pick, I guess I'm going to go with the Eagles' offensive line. Even though they lost Kelsey, they still have I'm still getting Stoutland in this reality, who made Jordan Mailata an all-pro out of rugby. And I still have Landon Dickerson, who's a top-tier guard. They've have a backup plan for Kelsey's departure with the drafting of Cam Jurgens a couple years ago. Lane Johnson is still very elite, even though he is a bit injury-prone these days. I still think that offensive unit is going to be good because of that offensive line, even without
I'm not going to
Kelsey.
tell you they're going to be bad. I mean, I think the Lions are a little bit better, but the second best offensive line is still pretty strong. And the Eagles have such a history of being so consistent at offensive line now. So I can't hold that against you. So that gives you your entire offense set, no?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
You've got Josh Allen with the Niners skill positions in the Eagles offensive line.
Yes, I do. I'm proud of that one.
I think that's pretty strong.
You've got no one on defense right now.
No.
And notice how the trenches have been like the last picks for you. It's,
it's telling.
Tyler Steen at right guard could get me.
A frigid January game would not go well for you, man. And I'm sorry. That being said, I'm going to go with the Dolphins skill position players with my next pick. There's obviously like the Vikings who you could also go with, and maybe you might think is a little bit more well-rounded. And I could get down with that. Jefferson's a beast, although I think Tyreek Hill is right there with him as it stands right now. Addison, I think, is going to obviously be a very good pro for a very long time. Hawkinson is one of the best tight ends in the NFL, and Aaron Jones showed some serious life at the end of last year. And I like Ty Chandler. I thought he was good last year. I was talking about him in the preseason of last year, if you remember. That was one of those ones where you watch it and you'd be like, well, obviously he's better than like Madison or Maddox or whoever it was. But the Dolphins' speed, I just think, is so game-breaking, and that's what I want. Because I'm not only getting Tyreek and Waddle, but I'm getting all of their running backs with Mostert, Nate Chain, and now Wright. Pairing that with the Lions' offensive line, I think just gives defenses way too much to worry about. And I'm seeing the way that the cards are falling. I know who my quarterback is going to be. Pairing that speed with possibly another, I'm not going to spoil any picks, but pairing that guy with possibly another very fast player just gives you a lot of game-breaking big play potential.
Oh, you talk about struggling in January. I'm not worried.
We'll have the
Lamar
offensive line.
and the Dolphins.
We'll have... Yeah, you're going to
Lamar
have a
with the
10-pick
Dolphins.
Josh Allen game. God bless you, though, man.
11 touchdowns, though.
49ers skill position group, and you're trying to win Super Bowls. No, I have to laugh. I do.
No way, Lamar Jackson.
Why do you think I took Mahomes?
Just talking to me right now.
Now, here's the real question. What if I just took another quarterback, and...
It wouldn't surprise me. Oh, Matt, what's your Dunkin' order? I just saw you take a sip.
Oh, it's just a black coffee of their original blend and nothing else.
Solid.
Is it good?
And I go up every morning and I go to the counter and I say, "Can I just get a black coffee and none of this other crap?" And they think I'm really sick for doing that shit. So
you gotta say none of this other liberal.
I said,
Don't put any of the lib juice in there, man.
No, I like. Here's the thing. I like the sweet coffees. I love when they put all the syrup in there and all of that good stuff. It's just that it's too many calories, and there's like no protein, and it's like there's nothing in there. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
your mouth
especially
feels like,
What
especially
if you
early
put
in the
protein
morning.
powder in your
especially
coffee?
early in the morning. You could.
Like,
I don't think it would mix in there very well. I don't think that would be very good. Well,
No.
maybe it would. I'm assuming
should,
if
like-
nobody has done it, it does not work, to be completely honest.
I feel like someone has definitely done it.
what are we talking about? I missed. What are we talking about?
Oh,
Putting
putting
protein
protein powder in a black
Yeah.
coffee, I think.
I'm sure it's happened.
That's what I'm
Right,
saying.
that's what I'm
The
saying,
odds
but
that
it's
it
like
hasn't
not a
happened is
thing.
zero.
It's like you don't hear about it, so it probably sucks.
Maybe you're just
That or-
not
yeah,
on
like-
like. Maybe we're just not on gym talk. You know.
Maybe not. I'll have to search on TikTok and see if anybody is talking about this. But I've just been getting black coffees recently.
Yeah, the sugary coffee thing, like they're good. They're tasty, no doubt, but they're just not worth getting at any point. They're too expensive. They're
That's the other
not
thing.
really a dessert or a breakfast or a lunch. They just don't really fit in. I just can't make room for them on my schedule. And if you're gonna get something sweet that's not a black coffee, like just get a chai or something, like a dirty chai. Those are really tasty and pretty sweet and just not quite as bad for you. So like, it's not that they don't taste good. It's just they're just so bad for you. It's like I can't think of a worse thing, and it's just not quite worth it.
Yeah,
at any
it's like
rate.
if I'm gonna have a big like sweet or something, I'm gonna go with something I can eat rather than like a
Yeah,
super
donut.
sugary drink. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. Blaiden, it's your pick, and you've got back to back though.
Well, you all knew this was coming at some point. I'm going to take the Browns offensive line.
I did know that one was coming. Actually, I
Yeah.
did.
I
You
think
could go
that's a
double
good
up on
line pick.
Browns, and it would be valid right here.
Yeah.
You could take the front seven. You could take the front seven, no doubt.
I'm thinking about it, but you know, I really want to make sure. I guess I could, because I don't necessarily have to take a skill position, because both of you guys have taken yours. But Theo, you haven't taken a front seven yet, so I have to think about which one am I okay losing.
Mm-hmm. But you're going to take the Browns offensive line
I am going to take
now.
I am going to take the Browns offensive line. The one thing that does worry me is Jed Wills. But in this fantasy universe where I have control over the Browns offensive line, we're cutting him and putting and rolling with
Yes.
just, well, we have two other tackles.
Yes.
So in this
Who
fantasy
are?
universe, I'm blanking on their names right now, but
This is not good.
this is not good for me. Don't worry. But
Conklin and
Dewan Jones.
Jones?
It's one-
Conklin and
yeah, Dewan
Jones.
Jones.
Yes, Conklin
Yeah.
and Jones. Thank you, Matt.
Do you know
Literally
who your
just blank
swing
on.
tackle? Do you know who your swing tackle would be in that situation? Hakeem Adeniji.
Man. No shot. It would be Akeem Adeniji.
You're right, it
We've
would
got
be
to
a
have
little-
someone else. We've got to have
James
someone else better
Hudson?
on the team.
You do.
James Hudson?
It's Dwan Jones. I don't know. Is Hudson still? I was
I
just
was going to
glancing
say.
at
I
the
think
report.
Hudson. I think Hudson is still on.
Yeah,
the
Hudson
team, but
is still.
Oh, Hudson's got to be better than Akeem Adeniji.
I was just quickly reading the depth chart. I will say Hudson is better than Adeniji. Shout out Hudson.
Shout out. Yeah, but you know the rest of the offensive line: Batonio,
Cincinnati. I
Pochik.
just clicked on the. I did not even know that. Anyway, keep it moving.
Yeah. Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin, and then we'll move Jones to left tackle in place of Jed Wills. For my next pick here, I am not going to take the Browns front. No, I am going to take the Browns front seven. I thought about taking
Yeah.
the Jets. I thought about taking the Jets, but then I realized that like I don't know. I feel like the Browns defensive line is better.
I mean, it was historic last year. It was
Browns'
one of the most
defensive line was-
successful pass rushes of all time. It was, and they've got guys coming back. They've got Okoronkwo,
Yeah.
who was hurt last year. He's a nice pass rusher. They're adding Mike
Yeah.
Hall. He's a nice pass rusher. Quentin Jefferson.
Yep.
Maurice Hurst got hurt last year. Siaki Ika is third string. Alex Wright, stay high
Ika
legend.
didn't play at all last year, man.
I know, but he's still good
Yeah.
third string. Like I don't care. He's still a good third
he's
string.
solid to have on the roster. We liked him coming out of the draft, but he did not see the field last year.
It's hard to in this unit. Like it's really
Which like
deep.
that's what you want, right? If you're drafting a guy that you're like, well, maybe he could be good down the line. That's kind of what you want, is to be so good that you don't even need him to play. The only thing that does concern you is the linebackers, but I do think that JOK showed a lot of promise last year. Don't laugh, Matt. It's true. Every once in a while he would guess wrong, but his anticipation and shooting gaps is pretty elite. When he shoots a gap, he's probably going to get back there. It's just,
which is all the time.
Right, he is always shooting
Either it
gaps.
works or it doesn't. Like it's not like he guesses wrong or right. It just.
I mean, no, that is what he either guesses wrong or right.
He's gonna shoot the gap, and he's gonna
shoot the gap. And he's either gonna blow up the running back, or he's gonna be 5 yards away from the play,
or he's gonna miss the tackle.
Well, hopefully he doesn't have to miss the tackle, because Myles Garrett will get it for him. That's the real hope. But yeah, man, I really said I wasn't going to take the Browns front seven, but I ended up doing it anyway. Oh
well, it's a perfectly valid.
I think both of those are fine picks. I think it's funny that you made both of them, of course.
Only me, but yeah, I don't know. It's just the defensive line is so good that you kind of can't pass up on it, even though the linebackers aren't quite on the same level. Here's my question. Because I have the Browns, do I get Grant Delpit in the box?
No, absolutely not. That's a secondary player.
That's okay. I thought I'd ask. He's the Browns' second best linebacker, so I thought it was.
No, he's a safety. Nice try, buddy.
It's okay. I have Kyle Hamilton, so I'll make do.
Yes.
I will.
The thing about the Browns,
the
Browns versus the Jets, I guess, is just like with the Browns, they've got like just that first wave. And that's JOK's thing, is he inserts into the pass rush, flying downhill, and it's one-on-ones across the board, and they have everybody can win. But if you can survive the first wave, then you can pick on them.
Yeah.
And they kind of got picked on in the playoffs,
Exactly. Whereas the Jets, it's a little bit more layered with the Williams and Mosley linebacker duo.
Right, that's what I was thinking of. I was like, man, if I could have Quinnen and Mosley, that would be really nice. And they still do have like a great defensive line outside of just Quinnen. But the Browns is just, you're right, Theo, that first wave is just too diabolical.
It is. Anyway, back to Matt.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of only one choice to make here, right? You both have quarterbacks, but only one of you has a secondary. So I have to go secondary, I feel like. And I'm glancing at every other team to make sure there's not somebody obvious who I'm forgetting. But to be completely honest with you, Blaiden, when you said that you had, you picked all these units that had Ohio State and a Cincinnati player, and I got jealous. So I think that I'm going to go with the Jets secondary as my pick.
If I didn't get the Ravens, I would have gone with the Jets. I think that's a very fair pick.
Right. I mean, they were arguably the best secondary in all of football last year. Sauce Gardner, I think, is the best corner in the NFL. I think their safety play is not crazy. I know it's not crazy great or anything, but I simply don't care. Safeties don't matter. PFF is right about that one, but they're not right about linebackers because I have good linebackers.
That's true.
The reality is, though, is that the production was just very strong for New York. And it just did fall their way in terms of having the elite corners and maybe mid-secondary play or mid-safety play worked out well for him. I think it'll work out well for me too. And there's not any other secondary that I'm looking at right now where I'm like, yeah, that's totally complete. Yeah, they have it all. They've got strong safeties and these great proven corners. So something's got to give.
Mhm.
I'm going with just sticking with Sauce because I mean, yeah,
Yeah. Why not? I mean, you get the cornerback duo.
Right.
Um, but I do think there is a secondary I'd put above them, but I'm not going to spoil it because I'm going to take them now.
we'll go ahead.
Ooh. Do you have? Oh yes. I'm going to
You
take the Saints secondary. I'm going to take the Saints secondary.
fake woke.
That's kind of a sleeper pick. I don't know. That might be a little bit woke.
I don't know. They ran more man coverage than anybody else last year, and I thought that they were pretty successful. I think Alante Taylor's kind of a badass. They just drafted Kool-Aid McKinstry in the second round. I had a first round
That's
grade
true.
on him. They had Marshawn Lattimore, and I think he's still good, although definitely not at his peak anymore. And then he was banged up last year, and Paulson Adebo actually filled in all right for him. Then they got Tyrann Mathieu, who is still like tackling a bit suspect maybe at this point, but still a disruptive wild card safety that you can, kind of put anywhere and he'll cause some havoc. I just think as a unit, this defense was pretty good. And it really wasn't because of the pass rush so much as it was the fact that they were able to play cover one all the time, keep guys down in the box, and still be able to lock guys up. So I actually really like that secondary. They got a bunch of guys you can
I
just
think it's completely
line up and
fair.
beat you. So
I forgot they got
they were good.
McKinstry. To be completely honest with you, that was a very strong pick by them. But
It was.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think they're definitely up there. They don't have Sauce Gardner though.
They don't have
don't.
Sauce Gardner. They don't have Sauce Gardner. When you look at the EPA per play against the pass, you see the Browns and the Jets right there at the top. Chiefs up there too. I wish they didn't trade L'Jarius Sneed away. Otherwise, this could have
Right, I
gotten a
would have
little
taken.
easier. But Saints are up there too with those teams, and they don't have the type of pass rush that the Browns and the Jets do. I give a bit more credit to their secondary, so I'm going with them.
That's fair.
And then the last thing I got to take is the front seven.
Mm-hmm.
We've been flirting with doing it the whole time. I'm going to make sure that there's not a better one than the Jets. There's the Texans, who are pretty good with now Danielle Hunter, right? And Will Anderson going. I could consider them.
Christian Harris is pretty good.
Blaine, why didn't you take the Colts?
Linebackers.
Oh,
But
okay.
we've selected the Cleveland Browns. No, I'm thinking here for a moment.
I would rather have JOK.
It all hinges on JOK.
Oh, you
I would.
son of a gun! You wiggled your way out of this one. There's the Cowboys, but I get their linebackers too.
Yeah,
you know.
linebackers is always like the killer for a lot of these teams, and that's why getting the 49ers wasn't interesting. I would almost flirt with Baltimore, Theo.
Yeah, you would get Roquan. That's nice. You would I could also consider the Dolphins. That's a shout out. They have Jordan Brooks and David Long. Those are two linebackers I like.
Yeah.
I love their edge duo of Chubb and Jalen Phillips. I like Sealer. We'll see what Calais Campbell can do. He might have to kick.
Oh my God,
more.
he did go to the Dolphins. Shout out
Yeah.
to him, Hall of Famer in my
How
book.
old is Calais
He's got to be
Campbell,
about 30.
man?
It's actually LeBron stuff he's pulling off right now. Shout out to him.
He's a funny player. He was playing at the edge for the Falcons last year. I just threw on some film when they got him, and he's playing that big D end spot. I don't know if he'll be able to do that because they have Phillips and Chubb. Like, will he kick inside? And he just has like absolutely no explosiveness, like no bend as an edge player. But he can still beat you with the swim. Like if you're not careful, he'll just swim right over you and win quickly. And he did that a couple times last year. So, he was still productive. I worry a little bit if he has to face more doubles inside in this scheme. But they're a pretty good unit as well. But I think
That
the Jets
defense overall on paper should be fantastic, man.
It should be.
It should be up there with just about anybody, dude.
The Dolphins, yeah.
I mean, their team still, like, if they can beat, if Tua can have a good performance versus a good team, there's no reason why they can't
Yeah.
go deeper in the playoffs than they have. Like, not to make this about just a Dolphins breakdown now, but man, you look at that whole roster and you definitely can't write them off. They added Poyer, who still is useful in some capacity.
Yeah,
They added,
but Hyde's not there. You need both.
Their secondary
they have Holland, who's
really could have been.
and
Yeah,
Marcus
they have
May.
Holland.
Yeah, but Poyer and Hyde are only good as a duo.
No, I don't think that's how it works.
I do though. I do think that's how.
And it's
Mo Kamara was a good draft pick. It's a really good team as you go up and down. But anyway, I still think I'm gonna go with the Jets because I like their linebackers better, and I think their pass rush is just as good. So it's a nice team, man. Hassan Reddick. We've talked a lot about the Jets pass rush. I feel like every episode recently. So I'll just move on.
Yeah, it's really tough picking these front sevens because you want to get the good pass rush, but the linebackers are also so important. And that's why Matt cooked with that 49ers front seven pick.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better.
The Ravens, I think would be actually a really good one also to pick, but you would not get. I feel like the pass rush is so dependent on Mike McDonald, and
you just wouldn't get that dominant front four player. Madubuike maybe is that guy if he can take another step, but Quinnen is just a whole different animal.
Right.
And Roquan is great, but they lost Patrick Queen, who was a key part of their pass rush.
I forgot they lost Patrick Queen. Yeah,
and that's not the
true.
Most horrible loss of all time or anything like that. Like, he didn't go actually for that much in free agency.
He was pretty good last year for them, though.
But
I mean, who
you
are
do think
replacing
like
him with?
Trenton Simpson. So who knows what could happen there.
Yeah, man.
They must feel good about it. That's what you can tell yourself if you're a Ravens fan.
Yeah. But they don't have McDonald anymore.
No.
That's also true.
So maybe not.
I'm going with the Jets. I'm standing on that.
All right. Matt, your final pick.
My final pick will be a quarterback, and it's going to be Lamar, right? He's coming off of an MVP season. I think if you put him with the Dolphins' weapon, his passing production would be nuts, at least in terms of like his efficiency. I know he doesn't put up the gaudy stats that like a Mahomes does some years or that an Allen does. And he didn't really last year. I think that's why a lot of people had a problem with his MVP. But I think that just comes down to like the volume of what he's doing. He's clearly, able to stretch the field like anybody else. And his ability to run and how he maneuvers the pocket and stays calm is so incredibly valuable, right? And I just think if you put a guy like that who has every option open to him in sense of throws that you can hit and runs that you can make, and you put him with the fastest players skill position wise in the NFL and behind the best, strongest, most dominant offensive line in the NFL, and there just wouldn't be any way to stop him. Don't get me wrong, the same would be true about Allen or Mahomes. But I like the build of this offense specifically. So I'm going with the guy who won MVP last year.
Yeah, you trade your first for McDaniel and get it.
Right, exactly.
But anyway, Blaiden.
That brings it back to me.
You need skill position, right?
I need skill position players. This is kind of tricky because the big two are kind of off the board here with the Niners and the Dolphins.
There's a couple of ways that you could go with this.
I'm thinking of a couple different, and I guess I can say who they are because obviously you guys can't steal. I am thinking about the Chicago Bears. The receiving room would be electric, with Rome and Keenan and DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. But then you also have DeAndre Swift at running back, which behind the Browns offensive line, I'm sure could work out fine, but it would definitely be a glaring weakness on the offense. I'm also kind of thinking about the Bills. You would get
What?
James Cook.
No way, man.
But
You would
That's
get
crazy talk.
okay,
you
man.
would get James Cook, you'd get Dalton Kincaid, and you'd get
All right,
a
man.
pretty below average receiving core, right?
Well,
All right,
Blaiden, what about the Vikings or the Eagles?
I am also thinking about the Vikings. The Eagles would be. Oh, the Eagles would be. I forgot they got Saquon. Shoot.
Yeah,
the
they
Eagles
got
would be
Saquon.
nice.
There's no way you could
The
go.
Eagles would be
And
nice.
Goddard.
Buffalo and Goddard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Goddard's-
couldn't go Buffalo. I forgot the Eagles got Saquon. I was still thinking the Eagles had like mediocre running backs too. I might have to go Philly.
Buffalo
I was
is-
also
I
thinking
like
about
their
Minnesota.
depth and-
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of where my head was at there. But I do like Minnesota, Jefferson. I mean, you already talked about all the guys that they have there, and they would have Aaron Jones. But the Eagles having Saquon does make a pretty big difference. So yeah, I might have to go with the Eagles. Saquon, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They don't have a lot of depth there. But the top end guys are pretty great, and that would be the same for. That would kind of be the same in Minnesota, would it not? You would have
Yeah,
like
it
a
would
bunch
be.
of top end guys, and you wouldn't really have a lot of depth, and then it would be the same for Chicago as well, and you wouldn't even have a good running back. So I do think I will go Philly. I lose out on Jefferson, and I lose out on the tons of receiving weapons that Chicago has. But yeah, Eagles receiving core.
Chicago
feel good
is
about my-
also on
Eagles
my
everything.
short list.
What?
Chicago is also on my short list, but I think there's just a few more better options. You're kind of banking a lot on like an older Allen to be really good, or
Yeah, I
like
mean, you
a
got
super
DJ
young Adunze.
But you need a Dunze to be really good right away. But DJ Moore is great, and Cole Kmet especially with Mahomes, man.
Cole Kmet is solid, but then it's like your other options are Hawkinson or Goddard, and it's like
Hawkinson and Goddard.
I could do better at tight end. I definitely could do better at running back.
Yeah, the thing that was really swinging me away from Chicago is Swift there. So that brings us to the end of this draft. Kind of a shorter episode today. So we'll go through what the final tally was. We'll go through what the final tally was.
I got Josh Allen at quarterback. I've got the 49ers skill position talent. And the way you guys are talking, I'm feeling good about Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall for my depth. We got wide receiver 3 on lock.
Yeah.
Although if Ayuk gets
you
traded,
have to trade Ayuk, man. I have bad news,
to.
bro.
if my team will fall apart if Ayuk is traded
entertain. You have to at least
in the next
entertain
24
trading.
hours. So I got Josh Allen. I've got the 49ers skill position group, and I've got the Eagles offensive line. And I guess my strategy is I think I'm just built to maybe run the ball with McCaffrey more than anybody else. And I could maybe be the most balanced team of the three with the MVP candidate running back. I guess that would be my way to try to win against you guys is that Josh Allen you can just really run him over and over again with McCaffrey and try to get a sense of balance that maybe y'all don't got. And then on defense, I've got the Jets front 7 and then the Saints secondary. So I feel pretty good about my layers on the first line of defense, the front 4, the linebackers are good, and the secondary is good. I don't have any kind of weakness in any of those 4 places. So I feel pretty good about my team. It's balanced. Maybe it doesn't have a superpower like Matt's speed, but maybe the balance will make me victorious.
Yeah.
Right. My team, we've got Lamar at quarterback, GOAT, him, Black Hole Sun edits, we're revving back up. Dolphins skill position group, incredibly fast, speed kills, we're very bought in. But see, while we have Lamar, who is like the new age quarterback, and while we have the Dolphins speed, which is, like I don't want to say new age position group, but McDaniel's on the sideline vaping or whatever. It's like it's a little bit modern. It's a little bit new era. We also have, I think, the best offensive line.
It's a little
out
bit
of the
soft.
3. See, but that's where we buck the trend, and we have this goated offensive line. That was our first pick. That's how we started building things out. So it completely changes the game because unlike a real team investing in an MVP quarterback and Tyreek Hill and Waddle has not prevented us from also having the Lions offensive line, which I think brings us to an entire new level. I mean, you see how much the Dolphins speed kills with an offensive line that I think, has some serious holes. And at times they can struggle to, run between the tackles. Just not going to be a problem. Just not going to be a problem on my offense. I think we'll generate explosive plays and be more frustrating to actually pin down than pretty much any offense ever. And then we get to the defensive side. I have the 49ers front seven. Maybe the pass rush production wasn't incredibly amazing for them last year. I honestly don't know where they ranked in pressures, but I do know that the talent is there absolutely. And I know that I think I have the best linebackers and the best corners in the NFL right now. And we're going to sit in a lot of zone and we're going to make it very tough and wait for you to make some mistakes or test some areas that you shouldn't be testing. We can always run some man if we want to as well, but I think it's going to be pretty zone heavy. And you sit back there too long. Demon Bosa's. He's coming.
I'm running read option, and he's getting faked out, and we're chasing the running back.
We aren't scared, and we aren't scared of that, by the way. But it's almost every play is going to be Ohio State Bosa sack or Cincinnati Sauce Gardner pick six. This will be awesome.
And then Blaiden.
I'm here with Mahomes.
And some say that's all you need.
Mahomes and the Browns.
Mahomes and the Browns.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
What if the Cleveland Browns drafted Patrick Mahomes? Oh boy, how would that look? But on top of that, we've got Mahomes throwing to A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, handing the ball off to Saquon Barkley, who is also running behind the Cleveland Browns offensive line, and which, I'm not cheating on Nick Chubb, so this is a hypothetical. And then the back end of our defense is the front end of our defense is the Browns front seven. Also, by the way, the back end of our defense is the Ravens secondary. So
the Ravens secondary is disgusting.
It is, man. It's really good. I imagine the Browns pressure that they got last year, how good their defensive line was, but then also they have Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams and Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins. That is definitely going to make some noise. I thought a big problem with the Browns defense last year was, their secondary at times. So I know a lot of people disagree with that, especially a lot of Browns fans, but they got torched against several teams just because their secondary couldn't hold up. And when Myles Garrett got hurt, I think it was against Denver, the team completely fell apart because the secondary couldn't hold up without the elite pass rush. So I've given myself a pretty strong safety blanket here. The only weakness, if there were one on my team, is the linebackers. But we're just going to move Kyle Hamilton down, and he's going to help out in the box a lot.
There we go.
I don't even know who my tight end is, to be completely honest with you. Jonnu Smith.
I think I can point to maybe at least one unit on each or one position on each of your teams that I could be like, who is that? But I think the high end of your guys' team, like the Saints secondary, scares me. I think that's maybe the worst pick of the draft, but there's just not that many secondaries that I'm rocking
There
with.
really aren't that. And that's kind of made me realize this. If we're talking about takeaways from this experiment, there's a lot of skill position groups that I would have felt good about, man. I mean, there's at least three more that would have been like, that's crazy.
Why I waited until the end to take one.
Yeah, same with quarterbacks. I would have if I didn't specifically want the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But in terms of like total front sevens, and maybe that's like kind of a big unit, 7 guys. But how many are there where it's like good defensive line, but disaster linebackers? There's a lot of teams like that. I mean, there's probably 3 or 4 teams like that. And then secondaries, there just aren't that many totally complete, well built out, well-rounded secondaries, which is a little
No.
bizarre because it feels like it should not be that difficult to get some decent safety play. It doesn't feel like it's that hard. So if you have the cornerbacks there, it's like you can't spend a little bit and get that safety play and up that unit. I don't know.
Yeah, I could maybe see the Patriots being a decent pick. I
Christian
could maybe
Gonzalez
see.
and
Yeah, it would make us very, it's kind of woke take about Gonzalez, but I agree that he'll be very good. Their secondary will be
Yeah.
awesome.
But yeah, it's definitely a bit slim pickings, really.
I think this would
Dolphins
be an
pretty good,
interesting. I think
but-
this would be an interesting experiment to do with like 10 people, maybe.
That's
Yeah.
also true. If we had more people drafting, how bleak would it get? It would be interesting if
But
you
would
could
it
get
is
some
it just a
people who-
fantasy team at that point?
Kind of, but then you're
That's-
drafting defense as well and offensive line and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, you draft a defense in fantasy, but you don't draft an offensive line.
Hold on, guys. I'm gonna switch locations real quick.
What? Bro's like under invest. The police just barged in.
I know.
They're breaking down his door. He's getting. I wonder, for those that are listening on Spotify, Theo just got doxxed or something. I don't know, man.
They're here.
They're here. They came for you.
The seafood police.
The podcast police. Open up. You're a.
All right. We're back. Anyway.
back.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. I don't know if we could edit that out or just keep it because it wasn't that long. But I have a second question. I have an awkward
Okay.
transition.
Awkward transition.
Mikal Bridges to the New York Knicks.
I've
what are our
been thinking
thoughts?
about that. I was up tossing turning all night about what my opinion on Mikal Bridges to the Knicks was. So here's the conclusion I've come to. Mikal is a great player. He's young and he plays like every game, right?
Mhm.
Being young and playing every game is so important. People are underestimating that. Like, yeah, the Knicks could have traded for somebody who is more of an offensive engine, and that would have been nice. But their options were like Jimmy Butler, who's going to be 35 the next time the playoffs roll around and is not the most consistent guy in the world in terms of playing. And that's not going to get better as he gets older. Paul George, kind of on the decline, and he's getting up there in age and he's been banged up. Or Brandon Ingram, who isn't as old as those two guys, but he's often injured as well, and it's a huge problem for the Pelicans. So I have a lot of respect for them for like avoiding that and getting somebody who is, more reliable. Because, you look every year, it's like which contender can stay the healthiest. I know it didn't pan out that way because of the Porzingis stuff this year, but I feel like it's a pretty special case. And they also kind of got lucky in the sense that they played a lot of banged up teams, or a lot of the other top contenders in the East were banged up. However, 5 first-round draft picks is ridiculously steep.
Yeah.
It's
Unprotected
a lot.
too.
Unprotected and their own, and very far into the future, right? Not even including this year. This is going until 2031. Now, I think 2 things can be true. The Mikal makes them a pretty serious threat in the East, albeit not the top threat, not the number 1 team. The Celtics are still better than them on paper. And also, they probably overpaid to do this. I guess my thought on it is like the strength of the Knicks. They'll be great defensively, and they're very young. For a contender this good, they're incredibly young. Most of their key players, in fact, all of their key players are under 30, except maybe Randall is 30 now. But Brunson, OG Anunoby, and Mikal, who are probably their 3 most important players, assuming they bring back OG, which we wouldn't even be having this conversation if the Mikal trade makes them lose OG, then it's a disaster, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That means that they're going to get a lot of cracks at it. They're going to get a lot of chances and a lot of opportunities to run it back until the luck breaks their way. Sometimes we see a team that's really, really good, that just can't stay together long enough, or just can't stay healthy, and they don't get the opportunity. Like the Nets are the big example. When they had Kyrie and Katie and Harden, obviously that team could have won a title, but it just fell apart so quickly, and those guys were so likely to get banged up. The Knicks are like the exact opposite of that, albeit they're not as good as that Nets team. But I'm a little worried that, like, if it doesn't work out in the first year or two, like, you're very locked into this roster now. Like, this is what you've got. You've got a couple of draft picks in this class, which isn't very strong, and they're very late. And hypothetically, if you hit on them, that's how you could really take this team to like the next level. It's like, do you have one more good swing in there? But I'm worried that people start to get a little antsy. However, I will admit that at the same time, them trading the 2031 pick like just does not matter to this Knicks team. It just is irrelevant until this era of Knicks is over. So you could make it like 10 draft picks, and like if they traded the 2040 first round draft pick, the standard would still be the same, right? It would be, if they win a title, it was worth it. If they don't, it's not. So it's almost, it doesn't really change how we look at the trade, but you can't just say that forever and ever, right? Like at some point it becomes too expensive. It's too big of a risk. And I wonder if this is maybe a little bit too rich. I will, if I want to go back and defend the Knicks a little bit more though, Mikal is so young and so durable that you could run through this era of the Knicks, it not work out, and then you could probably still trade Mikal and recoup some of that in a way that you couldn't have if you had gone for Paul George,
for KD or
Jimmy Butler, or KD or something. So I have very mixed feelings about it. My gut opinion is that the Knicks are probably still below 50% to win a title in the next 4 years, but it's also the best that they've ever been in my lifetime. There will also probably come a time where we're saying, damn, they don't have their pick.
Yeah.
And they suck.
Yeah, I mean, I like it for the Nets guaranteed. It's just that's the thing, is like there is just no chance that this ends up being just horrible for the Nets or anything like that. They got a ton of picks and they need to reset. So they're the most clear winners. Now they actually have a direction, right? And I actually do like it for the Knicks as well. And when you're going up against a team like the Celtics, we just saw a team with Luka Doncic unable to really make a dent in them. So it's not going to be about star power if you want to beat the most balanced team of all time. I saw the Thinking Basketball video. They ran some numbers, and that's the conclusion they came to. This is the most balanced team of all time. And I think to beat that, you kind of gotta match it. And I do think the Knicks have done a nice job of creating they're almost going with quantity over quality, it feels like, because their top players aren't as good as the Celtics' top players, but there's just so many good Knicks now, especially if they bring back OG, because it's Brunson, DiVincenzo, Bridges, Randall. Is Hartenstein going to be there? I don't know, I guess. Miles McBride.
It's looking like maybe not. It kind of depends on whether or not they trade Mitchell Robinson. They'll probably have one of those two, of Robinson and Hartenstein.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree with you, though.
There's just so many good players on that team that maybe they could out endure and out depth everybody. And I think that's as good of a strategy as anything. I mean, that strategy moves me more than trying to acquire a star, like you said, Matt, because it's going to take more than that to beat the Celtics. And like you said, there's not really a star that's like perfect right now. So I like what they're doing.
And they needed to be aggressive. I would say the top end guys of the Knicks are pretty great. What makes them special is, championships are one off of guys who can play defense and can shoot.
Yeah.
Not one or the other. Knicks have as many guys who can do both as you could possibly imagine, and at really, really high levels. I agree that I guess somebody like there's some guys out there that I wish they had gotten, like somebody who maybe was more of an offensive starter. Mikal can do it a little bit more. But he's not, going to go be like a high level option like that. OG can do it a little bit, but not super high level. Randall really needs to be their number 2, but he's been so inconsistent in the playoffs. Although now that he's got a ton of spacing by him, maybe he'll be a little bit better, but I'm pretty worried about that. So I still feel like that flaw is not, evaporated from the Knicks. And Brunson did a great job when they relied on him a ton. And this is a tough, gritty team that's going to get tough, gritty wins. But if they had gotten somebody who I felt like was maybe a little bit more of like a serious second option, more reliable, that would have been cool. Although, if everybody is doing their part a little bit and you've got a bunch of different dudes who can get things done, you don't necessarily need anybody going crazy. You don't need like a Kyrie Irving out there, right? Or whoever you want to say. I do think they're the second best team in the East. I will say that, though, in terms of like contention. And I know the 76ers could be their best players. Embiid is better than Brunson, but I don't even know who's on their team right now. They got like 4 guys, and Embiid is always banged up.
Right.
The Bucks, I feel this like the Bucks are almost the total opposite. Like, don't get me wrong, Giannis is better than Brunson by a lot, but like, dude, that team is ancient, and I think their odds of staying healthy are so incredibly low. They're one of those teams that have built things out so old where it's like, I just don't know how you could possibly expect this to ever work out in a playoff run. And I liked the Dame trade when it happened, but I kind of wish that I didn't, just based off the fact that like you're just banking on you. It's like the most important thing is the injury luck, that dice roll, and you've stacked the deck against yourself, it feels like. And now you're so old, you've given yourself so few opportunities before regression kicks in, right?
So. Yeah. And that's the Knicks. They have time and luck on their side now because of how the team is built. And that's very key. That's very key. So
but they were, and even they were banged up. They do need to load manage a little bit more. I'm not saying
and they can do that but now
like
if they
can. There's no excuse to have your guys play 40 something minutes a night in the regular season every night. Just no reason for that at all. For seeding in the East, dude, who cares? It's just not worth it.
Yeah, and the more guys they have, the more the minutes will be split up. So then you need to give Thibodeau like 12 starters, so he load manages. So I like it from that sense as well. And of course, you can't discount the team chemistry, the Villanova connection. They got chemistry.
Honestly, that's a lot of fun. Like I really do like that that's happened. As a fan who just like does, I mean, I don't care at all how good the Knicks are. It doesn't make a difference to me. I don't have investment one way or the other, but I think it's fun that they're all like buddies and they all play like this really gritty style. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's cool to me. That doesn't make the trade good or bad or whatever. But it's gonna be a cool storyline, and it's fun to see that stuff. So
yeah, and it is cool to see a New York-Boston rivalry. And if those are the two best teams in the East, I think that's fun. And they're kind of built so kind of similarly, I think. So. Yeah, I like the trade. It's an entertaining trade. I'm just happy that it happened, I guess. I think it's a win-win, honestly. But definitely a safer bet for the Nets, but that's just kind of inherent because they have less at risk. They just have to rebuild, right? Like obviously,
right. It's like they could. The only risk is that they draft the picks poorly, but you'd be stupid to look back and say that makes the trade bad if they draft poorly. It's like no, that makes the draft picks poor. Although people don't do that as much in the NBA as they do the NFL. And the Nets, I don't want to not talk about them at all. Any Brooklyn fan listening, but it's just so obvious that they cleaned up, and the fact that they got their own picks back from the Rockets. Right, they're not going to be the Chicago Bulls, complete slam dunk. Plus, they have several other guys to move. They should be moving those guys like Cameron Johnson or Dorian Finney-Smith or whoever.
Oh, yeah.
You get that stuff done, they're going to be in as good of a position as anybody can be, and they'll be ready to tank for stronger draft classes than this one.
Yeah. All right. I think that that's all I wanted to bring up. There's not really much other news going on, so.
Absolutely.
Hooray! Make sure you vote on who had the better stay hot team draft. Obviously, it's me.
Maybe we'll put up a poll.
We got to throw you out for that tampering. Me versus Matt now.
Tampering?
Influencing the vote. You just, I heard it come out of your mouth.
Oh, brother. I'm just a politician at heart, man. You know how it is.
Roadway destroyer.
It's so true, though. I'm looking at the replies on the tweet I just put out for the secondary draft we did, and people are loving Matt's draft. It seems.
Let's go.
So,
you know why? Because I got Sauce Gardner and he's goated, bro.
Yeah, people seem to. People are not liking the Geno Stone selection, I will say. But
Oh, these are nice draft picks. These are nice draft picks.
Yeah, I thought you did a good
Thanks,
job
man.
making these Blaiden.
Thanks, man. I came up with them last night. I was
Bang.
like, bang. But yeah. And I'll drop another graphic in a little while for
They're
this.
putting the polar bear in the replies, Blaiden. I'm sorry to say it, bro.
I'm seeing the bear.
I did not see the polar bear when I checked earlier, so this must be new.
The
But this
replies
bir-
all love Matt, but the quote tweets love me.
Oh. Well, how many
What-
likes are the
what-
quote
what does
tweets
this
getting,
mean?
Theo? How many likes are the
say-
quote?
One has 10K.
10K?
Bro, it's going viral.
Oh my god.
There's more people saying Matt, but the people who are agreeing with Theo are going far more viral. So what does
The
that tell us? They're getting brand deals off of agreeing with Theo.
I
In
did
fact,
see.
this
I
is-
saw one. I saw one reply that I'm gonna end up responding to on the Stay Hot account, and it just says, whoever Matt is, he cooked. I'm like, what do you mean, whoever Matt is? Yeah, who?
He's
How-
just some
how-
dude.
He's just some guy. That's the Matthew Spawnhour. Thank you very much. But thank you all so much for tuning in to another marvelous episode of Stay Hot. Theo, we wish you amazing travels back to your wonderful home. But hey, until next time, thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you on the flippity flop.